In the heart of Washington, D.C., under the shadow of grand monuments and amidst a ceaseless hum of political machinations, lies an unspoken world. It is a world where the glint of marble and the glow of street lamps on Pennsylvania Avenue do little to illuminate the darker corners of power. This city, known to many as the nerve center of a nation, holds secrets that are whispered only in the quietest corridors and the most private chambers. As the 1980s dawn, the capital is a stage for a new era of political theater. It is an age marked by Cold War tensions and domestic change, where public personas are meticulously crafted and every handshake is a calculated move. Yet, behind the facade of power suits and press conferences, there are stories that never make the headlines, truths that are carefully veiled from the public eye. On a chilly evening in early March, as the last light of day fades, the city's facade of respectability begins to dim. The offices empty, the bars fill, and the true face of Washington starts to emerge. It's a face that's less polished, more real, and infinitely more complex. In smoky backrooms and quiet cafes, deals are struck that will never be publicly acknowledged. In the shadows of power, influence is a currency more valuable than gold. Among the city's many players, there's one who knows this hidden world all too well. A figure who moves through the capital's contrasting realms with ease, yet remains apart from them. This individual, a detective seasoned by years of navigating the city's underbelly, is about to stumble upon a case that will challenge everything they know about power and justice. As the detective walks through the brisk night, their trench coat pulled tight against the biting wind, they are unaware that their life is about to intertwine with the city's darkest secrets. Secrets that will lead them down a path from which there is no easy return. In Washington, the line between right and wrong, truth and deceit, is as blurred as the boundary between day and night. In this city, every echo in the corridor, every whispered word, holds a weight of its own. And as our detective is about to discover, some echoes have a way of growing louder, demanding to be heard, no matter the cost. In the echo of these corridors, a story is about to unfold, a story of power, of secrets, and of a search for truth in a world where truth is the most dangerous commodity of all. The morning light filtered weakly through the thick clouds over Washington, D.C., casting a pallid glow on the detective's cluttered office. Detective Alex Jordan, a grizzled veteran of the Metropolitan Police, sat behind a desk littered with cold case files and half-empty coffee cups. With a reputation for tenacity and a disdain for political games, Jordan was a figure both respected and feared within the department. The day began like any other, with the mundane sorting of paperwork and the routine briefing on overnight incidents. However, as the morning waned, an unusual piece of mail caught Jordan's attention. It was a plain, unmarked envelope, the kind that typically contained nothing of consequence. But as Jordan tore it open, they found a single typewritten note that read, "Look into Senator Reynolds' affairs. Follow the money, find the truth." No signature, no further explanation. Intrigued and slightly amused by the dramatic flair of the message, Jordan leaned back in their chair, considering the possibilities. Senator Harold Reynolds was a rising star in the political arena, known for his charismatic presence and ambitious policies. But in Washington, prominence often came with a hidden price tag. Jordan's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden buzz of their desk phone. It was their longtime informant, Mickey, a man whose ear was always to the ground. "Alex, you need to see this," Mickey's voice crackled with urgency. "There's something big going down at the senator's townhouse. Police are swarming the place." Seizing the unexpected opportunity, Jordan grabbed their coat and badge, heading out into the crisp morning air. As they drove through the bustling streets, the detective couldn't help but feel the stirrings of the old thrill that came with a new case. But this time, there was a sense of foreboding too. In a city where power was the ultimate game, playing against the influential could be a dangerous venture. Arriving at the senator's affluent neighborhood, Jordan was met with a scene of controlled chaos. Police taped cordoned off a stately townhouse, and uniformed officers were milling about, maintaining a perimeter. Jordan flashed their badge to the officer at the entrance and stepped inside. The townhouse was a study in luxury, with elegant furnishings and art pieces that spoke of wealth and taste. However, the opulent scene was marred by the unmistakable signs of a struggle. In the center of the living room lay the body of a man, his features twisted in a final expression of surprise and pain. Jordan knelt beside the body, noting the expensive suit and the gold cufflinks, hallmarks of power and success. It was Senator Reynolds, his life brutally extinguished. The scene was puzzling, there were no obvious signs of forced entry, and the house appeared otherwise undisturbed. As Jordan began their initial assessment, they couldn't shake the feeling that this was no random act of violence. This was a message, a statement. And it was up to Alex Jordan to decipher its meaning, unaware that they were stepping into a web of deception that reached far beyond the marbled halls of the capital. In the heart of the nation's capital, where every move was a calculation and every alliance temporary, Detective Jordan was about to embark on an investigation that would test their limits and shake their understanding of justice. The game had begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. The air in the townhouse was heavy with a metallic scent of blood, a stark contrast to the polished elegance of the surroundings. Detective Alex Jordan moved methodically around the crime scene, their experienced eyes scanning for clues amidst the chaos. The body of Senator Reynolds lay sprawled on the Persian rug, a crimson stain spreading beneath him. Jordan's initial observation suggested that the murder weapon was a sharp object, likely a knife, given the nature of the wounds. However, there was no weapon in sight, suggesting that the killer had taken it with him. The lack of defensive wounds on the senator's body indicated that he might have known his attacker, or at least not perceived them as a threat until it was too late. Outside, the media had gathered like vultures, eager for any scrap of information. Inside, the forensic team was busy at work, collecting fingerprints, photographing the scene, and bagging evidence. Jordan knew that in high-profile cases like this, the pressure for a quick resolution would be immense. But haste often led to mistakes, and Jordan was not one to cut corners. As Jordan continued their examination, they noticed an odd detail. A single unopened letter lay on the senator's desk, its envelope bearing the seal of an unfamiliar foreign corporation. This piqued Jordan's interest. Foreign affairs were a delicate matter, especially when they involved someone of Reynolds' stature. Just then, Detective Linda Hayes, Jordan's partner, entered the room. Her expression was grim, reflecting the gravity of the situation. "The senator's wife found him this morning," she reported. "She's in the kitchen with the paramedics, in shock but unharmed." Jordan nodded, filing away this information. "We need to talk to her as soon as she's able. She might know something about the senator's recent activities or any threats he might have received." Hayes agreed, adding, "I'll start digging into the senator's financials and political connections. There's bound to be something there. A man in his position always has enemies." As the morning progressed, the house began to give up its secrets. The senator's personal computer and files were seized for analysis, and the security footage from the surrounding area was collected. Everything pointed to a carefully planned and executed murder, but the motive remained elusive. Jordan's thoughts kept returning to the mysterious letter on the senator's desk. It seemed out of place in the domestic setting, a silent witness to the final moments of a man who had navigated the treacherous waters of politics, only to meet his end in his own home. As the detective left the townhouse, the click of camera shutters and shouted questions from the press filled the air. The murder of Senator Reynolds was more than a crime, it was a national sensation. And for Detective Alex Jordan, it was the beginning of a complex puzzle that would lead them into the heart of a hidden world, where power and danger walked hand in hand. Detective Alex Jordan sat in the dim light of their office, the walls lined with maps of the city and photos of various suspects from past cases. The murder of Senator Reynolds had taken center stage in their mind, the details of the case swirling like a relentless storm. Jordan's intuition, honed by years on the force, told them there was more to this murder than a simple act of violence. The first piece of the puzzle was the mysterious foreign letter found at the crime scene. It was from a company based in Eastern Europe, known for its discreet dealings in international trade. This raised questions about the senator's involvement in matters that stretched far beyond the capital's marble halls. As Jordan pondered over this, Detective Linda Hayes walked in, her expression serious. "I've got something," she said, placing a thick file on the desk. Reynolds was in deep, financially speaking. His campaign was heavily funded by some shady characters, and he had debts in some surprising places. Jordan raised an eyebrow. "Any direct threats against him?" "Nothing concrete," Hayes replied. "But I did find out he was pushing for legislation that would have major implications for some powerful international players." The pieces were beginning to form a disturbing picture. The murder wasn't just a personal attack, it was a statement, a move in a high-stakes game of power and influence. Jordan's phone rang, cutting through their thoughts. It was Mickey, their informant. "You need to meet me, now," he said urgently. "I've heard things you need to know about the senator." An hour later, Jordan met Mickey in a dingy bar on the outskirts of the city. The informant was visibly nervous, his eyes darting around the room. "The senator was involved in more than just politics," he whispered. "There's talk of a covert deal, something big and dangerous. And there's a name that keeps coming up, Ivan Kozlov. Ivan Kozlov, a name known in intelligence circles as a ruthless player in international espionage and black market deals. If Reynolds was involved with Kozlov, the implications were enormous. Jordan returned to the office, their mind racing. This was no longer just a murder investigation, it was a dive into a world where the lines between legal and illegal, right and wrong, were blurred beyond recognition. The detective decided to pay a visit to the senator's widow. Perhaps she could shed light on her husband's dealings and his connection to Kozlov. But as Jordan headed out, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. In a city where secrets were currency, Jordan's inquiries were not going unnoticed. Unseen eyes followed the detective's every move, and behind closed doors, plans were being made. Plans that could either help Jordan unravel the mystery or entangle them further in the web of deception and danger that enshrouded the capital. The setting sun cast long shadows over the city as Detective Alex Jordan made their way to the residence of the late Senator Reynolds. The atmosphere in the upscale neighborhood was one of hushed curiosity, with neighbors discreetly peeking through curtains, all aware of the tragedy that had unfolded in their midst. Upon arrival, Jordan was greeted by a somber scene. The senator's widow, Eleanor Reynolds, sat in the parlor, a portrait of compassed grief. Her eyes, red-rimmed from crying, flickered with a mix of sorrow and something else, fear, perhaps, or maybe determination. Jordan introduced themselves and expressed condolences before delicately steering the conversation towards the senator's activities. Eleanor's responses were guarded at first, but as the detective gently probed, she began to open up. He had changed recently, Eleanor confided, her voice barely above a whisper. Harold was always ambitious, but there was a new intensity to him. He was secretive, meetings at odd hours, phone calls he wouldn't take at home. Did he mention anyone named Ivan Kozlov? Jordan asked, watching her reaction closely. Eleanor's face paled at the mention of the name. I heard him mention Kozlov once or twice. I got the sense he was someone dangerous. Harold wouldn't say much, but I could tell he was worried. The mention of Kozlov confirmed Jordan's suspicions of the senator's entanglement in matters far more complex than routine politics. It seemed Reynolds had been walking a tightrope, one that had finally snapped. After thanking Eleanor for her cooperation, Jordan left with a new sense of urgency. They needed to delve deeper into the senator's connections with Kozlov and uncover the nature of their dealings. Back at the station, Jordan and Hayes pored over the senator's financial records and communication logs. The trail was convoluted, leading through a labyrinth of offshore accounts, cryptic transactions, and coded messages. It was clear that Reynolds had been involved in something clandestine, something that carried significant risk. As Jordan and Hayes dissected the information, a pattern began to emerge. The senator had been playing a dangerous game, trading in information and influence at the highest levels. His connections spanned from shadowy corporate entities to foreign operatives. Jordan's phone rang, breaking the concentration. It was the forensic team. We found something on the letter you brought in, the voice said. There are fingerprints, not the senator's. We're running them now. This could be the break they needed. If the prints belonged to Kozlov or one of his associates, it would be a direct link to the murder. But as Jordan hung up the phone, they couldn't shake a nagging feeling. The deeper they delved into the case, the more perilous it became. In Washington, information was a weapon, and Jordan was acutely aware that they were now in possession of a particularly dangerous arsenal. As the city's nightlights flickered on, casting a deceptive sense of tranquility, Jordan knew that the real battle was just beginning, a battle that would test their resolve and their ability to discern friend from foe in a world where alliances were as fleeting as shadows. The following morning brought a tangible tension to Detective Alex Jordan's office. The fingerprints found on the letter at the senator's house were a lead they couldn't ignore. As Jordan awaited the forensic results, the weight of the case pressed heavily upon them. Jordan's contemplation was interrupted by a sudden call from the forensic department. We've got a match on those prints, came the voice on the other end, tinged with excitement. They belong to a known associate of Ivan Kozlov, Anatoly Vasiliev, a player in several shady dealings across Europe. This connection to Kozlov was a significant breakthrough, but it also raised the stakes. Jordan knew that delving into the world of international espionage was not only complicated but potentially deadly. The day progressed with a series of interviews and investigations, but as evening approached, Jordan's focus was drawn to an unexpected development. Returning to their car after visiting a potential witness, Jordan found an envelope placed under their windshield wiper. Inside, a simple message. Back off, or you'll be next. The threat was clear and unambiguous. Someone was watching, someone powerful enough to reach out and touch Jordan in the middle of a high-profile investigation. But instead of instilling fear, it only hardened Jordan's resolve. They had been threatened before in their career, but this time it was different. This time, it was personal. Jordan decided it was time to bring in more resources. Contacting the FBI, they arranged a meeting with Agent Sarah Martinez, known for her expertise in international crime. Over coffee in a discreet cafe, Jordan briefed Martinez on the case. "The Reynolds murder is just the tip of the iceberg," Jordan explained. "We're looking at a network that spans continents, involving espionage, blackmail, and high-level corruption." Martinez listened intently, her eyes sharp with interest. "I've heard rumors about Kozlov's activities," she said. "If we can link him directly to Reynolds' murder, it could blow the whole operation wide open." With a new ally in the FBI, Jordan felt a renewed sense of purpose. But the warning they received lingered in their mind. That night, as Jordan lay awake, they couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. In pursuing the truth, they had stepped into a world where the rules were written by unseen hands, where power was exercised in the shadows. The investigation had taken a dangerous turn, and Jordan knew that from here on out, every step had to be measured, every decision calculated. The dark web of deceit they were untangling was vast and treacherous, and one wrong move could be their last. In the silent hours of the night, the detectives steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, aware that the path to justice was often a lonely and perilous one. The morning light brought little comfort to Detective Alex Jordan as they prepared for the day ahead. The veiled threat had only deepened their resolve to unravel the mystery surrounding Senator Reynolds' murder. Knowing the risks involved, Jordan decided to move cautiously, aware that every step they took was potentially being monitored. Detective Linda Hayes joined Jordan early in the office, bringing with her a sense of determination. "I've been going through the senator's phone records," she said, spreading out a series of documents on the desk. "There are repeated calls to a burner phone, untraceable, but the timing coincides with some key political events." This was a significant lead. The burner phone suggested covert communications, possibly linked to the senator's dealings with Kozlov. Jordan and Hayes decided to track down the physical location of these calls, hoping it would lead them to whoever was on the other end of the line. Their investigation led them to a rundown apartment complex on the outskirts of the city. The place was a far cry from the polished corridors of power where Reynolds had operated. As they approached the designated apartment, a sense of unease settled over Jordan. The door was slightly ajar, an ominous sign. Inside, they found the apartment ransacked, a clear indication that they weren't the only ones interested in the occupant. Amidst the chaos, Jordan spotted a pile of burned papers in the fireplace, remnants of what looked like shredded documents. Sifting through the ashes, Jordan found a partially intact piece of paper with a handwritten note. "Kozlov meeting confirmed urgent." This discovery was a breakthrough, but it also confirmed Jordan's fears. Whoever was involved in the senator's murder was cleaning up loose ends, and Jordan and Hayes had just missed them. The day brought more unsettling developments. A key informant who had promised to meet Jordan later that evening suddenly went silent, their whereabouts unknown. It was becoming increasingly clear that the detective was up against a sophisticated and ruthless adversary. As the shadows grew longer, Jordan received another chilling warning. This time, it was a photo delivered to their home, a picture of Jordan at the crime scene, taken from a distance. The message was clear. They were being watched, and their every move was under scrutiny. Despite the mounting threats, Jordan refused to back down. They knew that the only way to end this game of cat and mouse was to expose the truth, no matter how dangerous the path to uncovering it. The night found Jordan poring over files and evidence in their dimly lit office, piecing together the fragments of a complex puzzle. The web of deceit was intricate and the players hidden in the shadows. But Jordan was determined to bring them into the light. In a city where lies were currency, the truth was the most powerful weapon of all. And Detective Alex Jordan was ready to wield it, whatever the cost. The early hours of dawn found Detective Alex Jordan deep in thought, their office bathed in the soft glow of a desk lamp. The photo of them at the crime scene, a blatant threat, lay on the desk, a stark reminder of the dangerous waters they were navigating. It was a tightrope walk, and the detective knew that one misstep could be fatal. Jordan's thoughts were interrupted by a call from Detective Linda Hayes. "I've got something," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "We've traced the burner phone's location history. It leads to an industrial area on the outskirts, a warehouse that's been abandoned for years." This was the lead they had been waiting for. Jordan and Hayes decided to investigate the warehouse, hoping to uncover more about the senator's mysterious contacts. As they approached the warehouse under the cover of early morning, the area was desolate, a stark landscape of forgotten industry. The warehouse loomed ahead, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. Jordan felt a familiar adrenaline surge, the instinctive alertness that came with years of police work. They entered cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The inside was vast and empty, save for a few scattered pieces of old machinery. As they moved deeper, Jordan noticed something unusual: a recently used area, hidden behind a stack of crates. There, they found a makeshift meeting room, complete with a table and chairs. On the table lay maps of the city, several burner phones, and a set of encrypted files. Jordan's heart raced as they realized the significance of the find. This was likely where the senator had met with his covert contacts, possibly even Kozlov himself. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Jordan and Hayes drew their weapons, turning towards the noise. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "I'm here to help," the figure spoke, stepping into the light. It was a man in his late 30s, his face etched with worry. "My name is Thomas Keller. I worked with Reynolds. I know what he was involved in." Keller's story was a tale of espionage and betrayal. He revealed that Reynolds had been part of a covert operation to sell classified information to foreign agents, led by none other than Ivan Kozlov. The senator's murder was a result of a deal gone wrong, a power play in a dangerous game of international intrigue. Jordan and Hayes listened intently, aware that Keller's testimony was the key to unraveling the case. But as they prepared to leave the warehouse, a sudden explosion rocked the building. The entrance collapsed in a cloud of dust and debris, a clear sign that their discovery had not gone unnoticed. Trapped and with their exit blocked, Jordan realized the gravity of their situation. They were dealing with an enemy who had eyes and ears everywhere, an enemy who would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. As they searched for another way out, Jordan's mind raced. The case had taken a perilous turn, and now, more than ever, they needed to stay one step ahead. The detective knew that the path to justice was fraught with danger, but they were determined to walk it, no matter the risk. In the echoing halls of the abandoned warehouse, the stakes had never been higher. The aftermath of the explosion left Detective Alex Jordan and Detective Linda Hayes in a precarious situation. The warehouse, once a silent relic, was now a trap, its exit sealed by debris. Amidst the settling dust, Jordan's mind was a whirlwind of calculation and resolve. They needed to find a way out, and fast. Thomas Keller, the informant, was visibly shaken but unharmed. "There's a service exit at the back," he said, his voice trembling. "But it's rarely used, could be blocked." With no time to waste, the trio navigated through the dimly lit labyrinth of the warehouse, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. As they reached the service exit, they were relieved to find it clear. The door led to a narrow alley, shrouded in the pre-dawn gloom. Once outside, Jordan knew they had to move quickly. Whoever was responsible for the explosion would soon realize they had survived. "We need to get you to a safe place," Jordan said to Keller, "your testimony is crucial." The sun was beginning to rise as they made their way back to the precinct. The city was waking, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded in its shadows. Back at the office, with Keller in a secure location, Jordan and Hayes began to piece together the puzzle with this new information. The senator's involvement in espionage, the sale of classified information, Kozlov's role, it was a tangled web of deceit and betrayal. But they were still missing a crucial piece. Who killed Senator Reynolds and why? Jordan pondered over the motives. Was it a power play by Kozlov, a deal gone sour, or something more? Their thoughts were interrupted by a call from the forensic team. "We've cracked the encrypted files from the warehouse," the technician reported. "It's a gold mine. Bank transfers, covert communication logs, even evidence of planned operations." This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. The files could potentially expose the entire network and provide the missing link in the senator's murder. But as Jordan and Hayes began to delve into the files, they realized the gravity of what they had uncovered. The operation was vast, implicating figures at the highest levels of government and foreign entities. The implications were staggering, and the danger to those involved was immense. As the day wore on, the detective duo knew they were running out of time. Those implicated would not sit idly by while their empire was threatened. Jordan and Hayes needed to act, and soon. That evening, as Jordan sat in their office, the weight of the case pressing down, a sense of clarity emerged. To bring the perpetrators to justice, they would have to step out of the shadows and confront them head-on. It was a risky move, one that could either break the case wide open or bring their own downfall. In the game of power and shadows, Detective Alex Jordan was ready to make their move, aware that the echo of their actions would resonate through the corridors of power, changing the landscape forever. The stage was set for a confrontation, and in the heart of the capital, the final act was about to begin. As the sun set over Washington, D.C., painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Detective Alex Jordan and Detective Linda Hayes prepared for what could be the most crucial phase of their investigation. The encrypted files had laid bare a network of corruption that extended its roots deep into the fabric of political and international power. The stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. Jordan's phone buzzed with a call from Agent Sarah Martinez of the FBI. "I've been briefed on your findings," Martinez said, her voice laced with a mix of excitement and concern. "This goes way beyond a simple murder case. We're looking at a threat to national security." Martinez proposed a joint operation. The FBI would provide resources and backup, but Jordan and Hayes would lead the charge, given their intimate knowledge of the case. It was an unprecedented partnership, but these were unprecedented circumstances. The trio met in a secure location to plan their strategy. They had a list of key targets for arrest, based on the evidence from the encrypted files. The operation had to be swift and synchronized. Any delay could give their adversaries time to escape or destroy evidence. As D-Day dawned, the city was blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Jordan, Hayes, and a team of FBI agents split up, targeting multiple locations simultaneously. The first location was the office of a high-ranking government official, implicated as a key player in the espionage network. The raid was swift, catching the official and his aides by surprise. Documents and computers were seized, and the official was taken into custody, protesting vehemently. Meanwhile, Martinez led a team to a private residence in Georgetown, where they apprehended a foreign diplomat with ties to Kozlov. The diplomat's arrest was a delicate matter, given the potential for international fallout, but the evidence was undeniable. As the day progressed, more arrests were made, each one sending shockwaves through the political landscape. The media was in a frenzy, reporting on the unfolding drama that was shaking the foundations of the capital. But the main target, Ivan Kozlov, remained elusive. Intelligence suggested he was planning to flee the country, and Jordan knew they had a narrow window to catch him. As the sun began to set, a tip came in. Kozlov was spotted at a private airstrip, preparing to board a jet. Jordan and a team of agents raced to the location, arriving just as the jet was preparing for takeoff. A tense standoff ensued, with Jordan and the agents confronting Kozlov on the tarmac. The international criminal, once untouchable, now found himself cornered. With no way out, Kozlov surrendered, the final piece of the puzzle falling into place. The operation was a resounding success, a testament to the unlikely alliance between Jordan, Hayes, and Martinez. The detective duo had faced down the shadows of corruption and emerged victorious. But as the adrenaline of the day faded, Jordan couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. They had uncovered and dismantled a vast network, but the detective knew that in the world of power and politics, there were always more secrets, more shadows waiting to be revealed. In the quiet of their office, Jordan reflected on the journey that had led them here. They had walked a tightrope, faced threats and dangers, but had held fast to their pursuit of justice. As they looked out over the city, now calm in the twilight, Jordan knew that their fight was far from over. In the echoes of the corridors of power, there would always be whispers of truth waiting to be heard. In the aftermath of the operation that brought down Ivan Kozlov and exposed a network of corruption, Detective Alex Jordan sat in their office, the early morning light casting a soft glow on the piles of files and evidence that had accumulated over the course of the investigation. The city outside was still, a stark contrast to the turmoil of the past few weeks. The success of the operation had sent ripples through the highest echelons of power, both domestically and internationally. High-ranking officials, foreign operatives, and influential power brokers were among those implicated. The media was abuzz with the story, hailing it as one of the most significant crackdowns on corruption and espionage in recent history. For Jordan, however, the victory was bittersweet. They knew that the arrest of Kozlov and his associates was just the tip of the iceberg. Corruption, like a hydra, would continue to find new ways to manifest. But for now, a significant battle had been won. As Jordan reviewed the case files, their thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Detective Linda Hayes, accompanied by Agent Sarah Martinez. Both wore expressions of satisfaction mixed with fatigue. "We've got them, Alex," Hayes said, a smile breaking through. "Kozlov is singing like a bird. He's implicating everyone, trying to cut a deal. This goes deeper than we thought." Martinez nodded in agreement. "The FBI is taking over the prosecution. This case will be remembered for years." "You did good, Jordan." The trio sat down to debrief, going over the details of the operation and the ensuing arrests. As they talked, Jordan couldn't help but reflect on the journey. The late nights, the threats, the moments of doubt, all had led to this point. Justice had been served, albeit at a great personal and professional cost. The meeting was interrupted by a call from the chief of police. He congratulated Jordan on the successful operation and hinted at a commendation. But for Jordan, the accolades were secondary. What mattered was the truth that had been uncovered, and the blow struck against the corrupt forces that sought to manipulate the levers of power for their own gain. As Hayes and Martinez left, promising to keep in touch about the ongoing developments, Jordan took a moment to themselves. The office, once a hub of activity and tension, was now a quiet space for reflection. The detective knew that the fight against corruption and deception was an ongoing one. There would be more battles, more dark corridors to navigate. But for now, there was a sense of closure, a moment of calm after the storm. Jordan stood up, gathering the files and evidence that had been the tools of their trade for the past weeks. It was time to move on, to prepare for the next challenge. But the echoes of this case would linger, a reminder of the fragile balance between truth and power in the corridors of the capital. As Jordan walked out of the office, the first rays of the morning sun were breaking over the horizon, casting a new light on the city. It was a new day, a fresh start, and for Detective Alex Jordan, another opportunity to stand as a sentinel against the shadows that threatened to engulf the corridors of power. Weeks had passed since the closure of the case that had rocked the nation's capital. Detective Alex Jordan, now hailed as a hero for their instrumental role in uncovering the deep-rooted corruption, sat alone on a bench overlooking the Potomac River. The calm flow of the water provided a stark contrast to the turbulent thoughts that occupied Jordan's mind. The city had returned to its usual rhythm, the scandal slowly receding from the headlines as the world moved on to the next big story. But for Jordan, the echoes of the case lingered, a constant reminder of the complexities and the often blurred lines between right and wrong. In the aftermath, the political landscape had shifted. Reforms were being implemented, with promises of greater transparency and accountability. The arrests had led to trials and convictions, a public display of justice served. Yet Jordan knew that the true extent of the corruption ran deeper, its roots entangled in the very fabric of power and governance. As they sat there, reflecting on the events, Jordan's thoughts turned to their colleagues. Detective Linda Hayes had received a well-deserved promotion, her tenacity and dedication recognized. Agent Sarah Martinez had returned to the FBI, her path crossing with Jordan's only occasionally on new cases. The biggest change, however, was within Jordan themselves. The case had changed them, leaving an indelible mark on their perspective of justice and duty. The lines they had crossed, the risks they had taken, all in the pursuit of truth, had reshaped their understanding of what it meant to be a law enforcer in a world rife with complexities and moral ambiguities. The detective's reverie was broken by the sound of a familiar voice. Turning, Jordan saw an old friend approaching, a fellow detective from the precinct. They exchanged greetings, and the friend sat down beside them. "You did good, Alex," the friend said, a note of respect in their voice. "But I've got to ask, after all this, what keeps you going? What's next for Detective Jordan?" Jordan looked out over the river, the sun casting a golden hue over the water. "What's next?" they mused. "The same as always. To serve and protect, to seek the truth, no matter where it leads. This city, its corridors of power, will always have their shadows. And as long as they do, I'll be there, a watchful guardian against the darkness." The two sat in silence for a while, watching the sun dip below the horizon, its fading light reflecting off the waters of the Potomac. In the quiet of the evening, Detective Alex Jordan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The echoes of the corridor might never fully fade away, but they would always serve as a reminder of the ongoing battle against the forces that sought to corrupt and deceive. As the night settled over the city, Jordan rose from the bench, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the world of shadows and light, of power and justice, they would continue to stand as a beacon of integrity and perseverance, a detective committed to unveiling the truth, no matter the cost.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. We highly recommend you watch the next video here. Oops. I'm waiting for you to click. Yes, you've clicked. Happy watching.